Actually, now that I see it, it's whatever. All right. Hey, welcome everybody to Weekly Manga Recap. It's October the 16th of 2019. I am Nick, here with a hand. And
not a hand, Nick. The Spookmaster General is here. Woo! Woo!
Well, I hope that putting on all that face paint was worth it. Actually, I can hear Nicole laughing from outside, so I think that it was actually completely worth it. So there you go.
So let me tell you a couple things.
Really, there's a backstory behind this.
So first, I was like, "I'll be a spooky clown." Didn't think it would come out nearly as juggalo as it did. But then I was also like, "Hey." Chris Jericho's kind of got like the crossing he does over his eyes.
He does.
So I'll try that a little bit just on the sides going out. Didn't realize it really just makes it look like I have really fabulous mascara going across.
You look like so many things right now.
But I'm the Spookmaster General!
You look like that guy. Oh gosh, what's his name? The guy who died recently. The role that he had in like House of a Thousand Corpses, Yeah.
Well, as you know, Nick, the Spookmaster General is already dead.
Okay.
And there are a great many tidbits to tell you about the Spookmaster General, and I will relay them to you all throughout the evening as we reveal the true backstory of the Spookmaster General.
I mean, I thought we were going to get this last week, but all right.
No, I actually wrote things down this time.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
There are so many things that people are saying you look like in the chat. Juggalo, Hidan from Naruto, Pennywise Light. Only Aaron rules 380 realizes, no. It's
the Spookmaster General, obviously, yeah.
General, yeah. So this guy's got it. All right. Okay, so I hope that you're prepared to wear that for the next 2+ hours. So, yeah.
Nick, the Spookmaster General is only getting stronger as the minutes go closer to All Hallows Eve. Although, he's noticing that his eyes are tearing up a little bit, and he's worried that if he
he's going to start running.
He's worried that if he touches, it's going to get into his eyes. And, he can endure all sorts of torture, but maybe appear quite less masculine if he's like, "Ow, the grease paint's in my eye. It's in my eyesies."
Should I brought a handkerchief or something like that?
Why? Who needs it? Let's start talking about this manga, Nick.
All right. Oh man. So we read a manga for this week for Halloween month.
Yes.
That probably doesn't thank you, phone. It probably doesn't sound very Halloween appropriate on just first indication. It's called Happy Sugar Life, which is about the love that a teenage girl has for this tiny little girl that she adopts. Oh, isn't that sweet? Our protagonist is a girl named Sato who has a reputation in school for kind of fooling around with a lot of boys. But one day she just decides to stop doing all of that because she has found this person that she wants to dedicate her entire life to loving. And it turns out that someone is like a, 5-year-old girl. She can't be very old because she is incredibly innocent.
She's very tiny, too.
And Sato wants to just live with her and just keep her in a castle and maintain their happy sugar life. This life that is so sweet and wonderful that she wants to never give it up. Which is why she kidnapped this girl and locked her away in this apartment, which is owned by a guy that she killed so that they could use it to live together in secret. Yay!
That's how it goes. It's very scary when you have that premise and not just a series where two people find happiness with each other.
Mm-hmm. I have to say,
Nick, look into the Spookmaster General's eyes when you talk.
All right, fine. Spookness in general. I have to say, like, this is a rough read for me. It's not because the series is bad or because it's scary or that it's... In general, I've just been having not a great week. Work's just been kind of a bummer. And with that kind of attitude, I can't read a series like this. It has nothing to do with what Sato does in order to maintain her happy sugar life. It is the fact that virtually everyone in the universe this manga takes place in is just an asshole.
Yeah, this manga is dominated. It's not a happy manga. Let me express that. This is a pretty bleak series. If you have a favorite character, and I'm shocked you do because nobody's particularly likable, be prepared for them to not have a happy ending. And the interesting thing is that the main, like the core cast are kind of bad people.
Mm-hmm.
But basically everyone else they meet are somehow much worse as well.
Yes.
To a shocking degree.
So Sato is she's a serial killer basically. She kills multiple times in this series, butchers people, chops up their bodies so that they don't get discovered, all for the sake of protecting this happiness that she has with Shio. And in some cases, it makes sense why she does it. They are going to discover Shio, or they have done something bad that she takes vengeance for. In one case early on, however, literally like an ex-boyfriend of hers tries to use his discovery of the fact that he has, she has kidnapped this small girl and is keeping her in this apartment to try and blackmail her so that he can, get back together with her. And when he realizes, oh, this girl's a psychopath who could kill me, he tries to be like, oh, I won't tell anyone. And she's just like, the reason that she decides to kill him is not because she doesn't believe him, although she probably doesn't, but because when she heard Shio talking about him, Shio smiled. And she's like, Shio spoke your name and was happy about you. And I can't allow that. I can't allow her to get close to anyone else. And so she kills him. So she is way off the deep end. However, in order to maintain her position as the protagonist, even though she is a bad person, and in order to keep you kind of rooting for her to get her way, because the affection that she feels for Shio is weird and messed up, but she does genuinely care about her. The people that she kills are all worse than her. They are rapists, they are sexual molesters, they are pedophiles, and so it's okay to kill them. Which basically means that this entire world that these characters live in is just shitty and is full of people abusing each other, cycles of abuse, almost, except for the truly monstrous people, basically everyone in the series who is an abuser has at some point been abused themselves. So I don't know exactly how society has maintained itself in this series, because it seems as though everyone is just trying to get their own and is willing to kill everyone else in order to get it. And that's what's depressing about it, and why I couldn't read all of it. I skipped around quite a bit in order to get through this, because it's just not. It's just like it's bleak. That's what it is.
Monumentally bleak. Uh, the perfect example that I can think of is we're pretty quickly, like, the entire premise of the first chapter is kind of showing us everything that we realize, oh, hey, Sato is definitely kidnapped this child. She is definitely, like, psychopathic. She is definitely insane. And there definitely seems to be an implication that she's already killed people to this point. We don't know how many. But there's definitely something very unnerving. There's this very small, innocent child living with her. So it's a very dangerous situation. And somehow, by just the process of constantly having her interact with more awful people, she's the hero of the story for a little bit, where you're like, I mean, I don't want to root for you, but your teacher's like a weird fucking creep who's trying to fuck you with blackmail and all sorts of, like, weird shits going. Like, everyone they meet is monumentally awful, to the point where you're like, I guess this, like, psychopathic murdering, like, serial killing kidnapper is my hero for a little bit.
At least Sato has conviction, you know? Like, because she keeps on getting all these moments where she'll, like, dress down the people who are worse than her and just show, like, you know, they're actually really small people who aren't willing to go as far as they, you know, should in order to get what they want. And Sato is. Like, you know, the very first person that she confronts, it's, I don't believe she kills this person. She just blackmails her.
Yeah.
But, so in order to, you know, earn enough money that she can, you know, like, take care of Shio in this apartment, she gets a second job. And so she's working at the second job, and this guy thinks that she's cute and asks her out, and he's like, no, I'm thank you, but no, I've got someone that I like. Not telling anyone that it's, you know, like a 5 or 6 year old girl. But as a result of this, the guy, Matsuzaka, gets a little kind of, you know, like, bummed out and a little bit embarrassed because he asked her out basically in front of everyone like an idiot and got rejected. Or I think that someone saw it and just kind of spread the rumor around. So as a result of that, that happens, and then their boss uses that as an excuse to kind of take him into her office and rapes him and ties him up and stuffs him in the closet because she is upset that someone who works under her isn't showing love back to her, and they have shown someone else love instead of showing it to her. So she's raping him in order to get him to love only her. And so then she confronts Sato after, like, forcing her to do a bunch of work to make up for Matsuzaka, who's missing his shifts because, you know, he's tied up naked in the closet, and she's not paying her anymore. And she's like, yeah, it only makes sense. You caused trouble here, so you have to make up for it. And Sato's like, you're a really small person, and just, like, completely dresses her down, knows exactly what's going on. And the manager has this big freak out and just like, how dare you? I deserve to be loved, and that's why I raped him and tied him up and stuffed him in the closet. And Sato's just, like, you know, secretly recording her on her phone. And she's like, no. And it's like, you're not very good at this. This is a teenage girl who immediately outwitted you.
Yeah.
But just by, like, very easily provoking you and recording on her cell phone. And she keeps on doing that. Sato is not a very likable person, but by virtue of simply being less unlikable than everyone else, yeah, you kind of do end up rooting for her because, yeah, she's not doing great things, but at least she's good at doing those not great things.
Yeah, so the go-to example I use when, like, thinking about this series is there's a chapter relatively early on where Shiho gets out. She leaves the house and she's looking for Sato. There's a whole thing going on. It's not really relevant. And she's wandering around and she's found by Mitsuboshi, I think is his name. The guy you were just talking about. He's a fucking loser and one of the worst parts of the series.
By the way, there are so many names in this series that are similar to other names.
Yeah. Shio and Sato.
So hard to talk about.
Shio and Sato.
Sato, Psycho, like, Mitsuboshi and Matsuzaka. I think that Matsuzaka is actually Sato's name. I don't know. I couldn't keep it straight, and I literally just kind of like divide up into guy who's creepy for this reason,
Yeah.
guy who's creepy for this reason, girl who's creepy for this reason.
So, Mitsubosho finds Shiho, and he's like, he's obsessed with her because he's seen pictures of her, and she represents this love to him, this innocent love that can fix him, because now he has a fear of women after everything that older women after everything that happened. So he's like, I'll help you. I'll get you back home. Like, I'll protect you then. And it's like this moment of like, oh, what's gonna happen? And then a bunch of bullies show up and they knock him over the head and they beat the shit out of him. And meanwhile, Shio has like a panic attack because she suffered some pretty deep stuff in her childhood, and she screams. And the bullies stop beating up Mitsubosho and are like, oh my god, there's a little girl here. And I kind of understand. I was like, look, they're not gonna help her. They're bullies. They're just trademark bullies. But they bring up, they're like, oh, hey, isn't that the girl who's been on all the missing wanted posters? We should bring her into the police station, not because it's a good deed, but because we'll get a reward. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Logical. Logical thinking.
Then they just abruptly were like, no, that won't work. Hey, let's find that homeless guy that's around here and beat him up too. And that's that was their train of thought. Was they were like, we could help this little girl out. No, let's beat up that homeless guy instead.
Well, said homeless guy was the person they saw passing out the posters and stuff to people, because he's looking for her. But yeah, it was really weird. It's like, I know what we'll do. We'll get a reward if we do this. No, we won't. But that one guy was looking for her, and we could beat him up more.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, so they're just the worst of the worst, so that we can have somebody who's somehow at a lower tier of humanity than the girl who kidnaps and murders people for a living. So,
yes.
Look, I think there's a part of it that's interesting. The manga's trying to say some stuff about, like, I guess there is like a reason for why these characters do everything. It all comes down to mostly abusive relationship in your past and the twisted relationship of love that gets in people's heads, basically. And it's intriguing. It's interesting. I just don't know if it's, look, you have to be really into some bleak shit to be able to read this series, come out the other end and be like, thank goodness I read that, you know?
Yeah, I think that you have to have the right mindset for it, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are. I think that the target demographic for this series is people who are like into, true murder stories and kidnapping stories and stuff like that. The kind of real world, like, disturbing stuff that people do actually get up to. And I have to say, like, I personally would have enjoyed the series more if it were worse. I have to say that because nothing about this series, like, I think that it is very well done. I think that it is a very well told story, and it is just not my speed in any way, shape, or form. I could not get into this just because it's not my type of thing. Now, if Sato had, instead of, occasionally having to kill someone with a, knife and then chop up their body and dispose of them, if she just, like, ran around screaming about how much she loved Shio and she was going to protect their happy sugar life and chop people up with a chainsaw for no reason, I would have probably liked this a lot more. It would have been more entertaining to me because it would have been more nonsensical.
Yes. I think, yeah, I do enjoy those types of horror a lot more, where you make like a monster and you just have them do crazy, stupid stuff and you kind of laugh at it. This one you really can't laugh at, although there are times where it really tries to put a joke in, like when Mitsuboshi, Sato wants to get Mitsuboshi to work for her. So her way of doing it is to throw one of Shiho's socks at him. So he'll be like, oh, it's a socks. I've been graced by her goddess's love. And it's like he's floating on air. And you're like, this man is deeply disturbed. This is a very terrible relationship that they're in. I don't know why we're making a joke of this right now. But that's what they do. And, I think maybe the pacing is partially also why I kind of couldn't get into this series super well. There's weird points where, like, a chapter will be dedicated to a character who, to my knowledge, never shows up again. Like, there's one girl who has a crush on Sato, who breaks into her locker, and Sato finds out it's her, and the girl knows everything. She's like, "Hey, you're falsifying your information at work. You're not actually living with your aunt, are you? What's the situation?" And Sato realizes she likes her, so she puts on the charm and starts putting on the moves, and basically charms her into being like, "Yeah, I kind of like you, but I thought it was kind of weird that you looked into me like this." She's like, "Oh, I'll never do it again." And I don't recall ever seeing that character again. And I was kind of just like, what a weird chapter. Like, I guess it shows how Sato uses kind of like the rumors about her and her past experiences to her advantage. But like, it felt weird to base it like an entire chapter on that one dilemma when you're like, none of this really mattered that much.
It does add to the series Sato's personality because she has that effect on people where everyone thinks that she's just this beautiful, friendly, open person, but she has this side to her that is fiercely protective of the thing that she actually loves. And so she's got that, kind of Cheshire smile kind of thing going on where she'll just be giving this very happy smile and you don't know exactly what's going on in her head, but you know that it's probably bad. You don't know exactly what is going on between her and Shio because she clearly thinks that what she feels for Shio is genuine love. But at the same time, she's like forbidding her from leaving the apartment. She gets an exterior lock to put on the door so that Shio can't get out. So it's a very selfish sort of love. And you just kind of keep on thinking, like, is this going to get to a point where she's going to do something to this girl? And so there's that constant element of unease about her and stuff like that. So, like I say, she's very well done. The series is very well done. I would have liked it if she were worse. Just worse portrayed. If she were just, a crazy clown.
What? Are you saying all clowns have to be crazy, Nick? Is that what you're insinuating?
No, I said crazy clown. Therefore, there are clowns that aren't crazy. Okay. Otherwise, that would have been a redundant descriptor.
Very good. This is acceptable then. The Spookmaster General accepts your apology.
Fair enough. God, so how many characters in the series can I even name that weren't abused or abusive or are abusive themselves and don't get killed? I think there's
I was gonna say that. The only person I could really name was her friend.
And then she got killed. So spoilers. There is the actual hero of the story turns out to be Shio's older brother, who is this homeless kid who is looking for her. And he just keeps on getting the shit knocked out of him. It's kind of hard to root for him because Kiana shows up and he's like, I've got to find her. And boom, 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 these two random bullies just kick his ass for no goddamn reason. Sato considers killing him at one point because she knows that he was close to Shio in the past, and so she's fiercely protective of that feeling. She's jealous of it. There's a whole weird thing where Sato and Shio get married, quote unquote.
Yeah, there's a lot of marriage vows being exchanged throughout the series.
They have a ring. They wear rings for each other, and Shio's just kind of going along with everything, but because she's not all there. It's never said exactly what's going on with her, but clearly there was something wrong with her relationship with her parents, and we find out a little bit about it, but not all of it.
We get enough to glean the father was an alcoholic who was abusive, and the mother kind of just snapped eventually.
Yeah. And so, yay, she's not all there. So she's kind of the one person that Sato could have taken that would, have cooperated with it at all, because she's very happy with Sato. Because she kind of just forgets about the other people in her life because of the trauma that she's been through already. And Sato's got a weird whole messed up parental thing too. And it's really a story about how cycles of abuse continue and how people have to find their own definition of love. And sometimes that definition of love is messed up. And It's not a very happy series.
Spooky.
I wouldn't even know.
I wouldn't call this
It's
a horror.
disturbing.
I wouldn't call this
It's
a horror
disturbing.
series, at least not in the way that I tend to look at horror. It's suspense. It's only horror because she kills a couple people, but it's a lot more.
It's a thriller.
Yeah, it's a lot more psychological thriller.
It reminds me a bit of Bastard,
Yeah.
the one with the serial killer father. But that one, had like an optimistic tone for it that kind of carried us through and got to the end. It's like, oh, I want this kid to, actually like escape from under his father's influence and stuff. And is he going to be able to do that? And in this, it's like, well, there's no one that I really, I hope that the little girl lives through this, and she kind of does.
Yeah, the implications at the end isn't particularly good, but.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, read this. If you hear us talking about it and think that you would be into it, I'm not sure exactly what that would entail, though.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it before, though. There's going to be some people who are going to be into this sort of series, and there are people who actually do enjoy that style of like horror or kind of like dreadful storytelling. Not dreadful as in like bad, but like just there's no sense of hope within it or anything.
Deliberately invokes dread.
Yeah,
yes.
So you definitely. Like anyone who's into that, I think will enjoy this. As you said, this is a well-written series. Outside of the fact that I feel like there was too much time spent pushing how much worse everyone else is around them except the main characters. Like it feels weird that we needed to like make people worse than them because there isn't really a great protagonist in this series. But I mean, outside of that, it's still really solid. We haven't really talked too much on the Ant, but the Ant doesn't really need it. She's also a very bad person who does a lot of very awful things, and she's the main reason why Shiho or Sato is the way she is right now.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go into the recap portion with Manga Recap, why don't we?
Or, Nick, perhaps we give some insight into the Spookmaster General's character. Nick,
Probably good, yeah.
The Spookmaster General was born in the most twisted and depraved place in America, a Hardy's bathroom.
Oh, okay.
And his full name is Spookmaster Jebediah Heist Oswaldo Buenstein. And he earned the rank of general for his brave service in the Monsters Against Attractive Teenagers Trying to Have Sex in Creepy Location Wars. I got a triple stab Purple Heart for that.
Triple stab Purple Heart. All right. So...
more spooky lore for the Spookmaster's origins coming up in the future.
Let's talk about My Hero Academia. Chapter number 246, Message.
Kind of look like a sexy mime when I have the mask up here. I'm like, ooh.
No, you don't. No, that. So, this chapter opens with a cool 2-page color spread. It's Deku and a bunch of girls going through TVs and stuff. Why? Because season 4 of My Hero Academia is here. Kinda. It started with a recap episode.
That Nick
it's a great way to do.
That Nick was not too happy about.
No. So, okay. This is the most Nick thing I can do. So, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I did this already, but watch the recap that's at the start of My Hero Academia Season 4. And the framing device is that there's an investigative journalist who goes to UA to try and figure out who All Might's successor is. Because there's that thing that All Might said where, he points at the camera, he's like, now it's your turn. And so he's like, he's gotten on to the idea. He basically has read the manga already and knows where this is going. And so he figures that he's actually talking directly to the person he's chosen as his successor. And so he's like, well, All Might became a teacher at UA, so his successor is probably there. He's very close to the members of Class 1A, so it's probably among them. And more than likely, it's one of the people who was impressive during the sports festival. So he's like, these 6 kids in 1A made it to the finals of the sports festival. Now, what he actually meant, because the finals of the sports festival were a 16-man ladder tournament, and there were 12 people from 1A in it, So what he probably meant was the people who made it to the quarterfinals, of which there were 7 members of Class 1A, not 6. And the one person that he didn't think was potentially All Might's successor was the one girl who made it that far, Ashido. So, random bit of like, no, the girl can't be important for some reason. And I can tell you this much, it was not because they didn't have enough time in the episode for him to investigate every lead that the guy could have possibly had. Because he spends all of 1 minute narrowing down those 6 people to just Deku. So I don't know why they just were like, no, whatever. Just Tokoyami, Ida, Bakugo, Kirishima. Who's an Ashido?
Whatever.
It was weird.
Who needs her?
It's not like she plays an important role in somebody's backstory this very season. So, getting back to the present of My Hero Academia, we had just heard the villains and the Liberation Front. I forget what they call themselves now. It's a weird name.
Oh, the paranormal something?
Yeah, it's weird. It's worse than the League of Villains. Anyway, so we had heard Hawks overhearing them talk about their plan for Shigaraki to use his quirk to destroy everything, basically. And we see Shigaraki talking with the Doctor about his quirk and how it has changed, evolved in the last battle, and how he can now disintegrate things that are connected to the object that he touches as well. So he's like, I've got no more need to use delicate moves, but this boost has not made me unbeatable because, you know, Redestro's still alive, obviously. Plus, look at this arm. I went all out one time. This is what happened. And his arm is covered with all these scars and cracks and stuff. So it's bad if he just kind of goes all out with this destroy everything power, because he'll probably get destroyed too. He's a little bit like Dabi now. But he says that he's going to use everything that he has to obliterate the dregs that All Might left behind. The next time we meet, I'll finish them off. And the Doctor says that his research that he's gathered was originally intended to be used for All for One. And he talks about how, you know, with each passing generation, quirks become more mixed and complex. Though our memory expands faster and faster, our hardware doesn't evolve quickly enough to keep up, and there will eventually come a point where people lose control. I call this concept the quirk singularity. And I'm like, wait a minute. We heard about this already, and you're taking full credit for it? Is he the guy who originated this concept? Or is he just taking credit for something that is just generally known by the populace? I came up with this.
I made this.
Exactly, yes. Because we heard about this when Bakugo and Todoroki were having to look after the preschoolers.
It's very possible that it's become a more prevailing theory since One for All or All for One decided to like kind of theorize it and everything like that. So maybe it's only recently become more of a thing, and he was the one, you know, kind of parading this theory, you know, 15 years ago or whatever it would be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was going around, you know, testing preschoolers' quirks, apparently, if he is that same doctor who tested out Deku. So maybe he did actually, you know, seed it into the public consciousness. But anyhow, so Shigaraki is figuring out what he's going to do. He goes basically under the knife for the Doctor to start working on him. And he says that for the next 4 months, you'll endure hellish agony. But if you can overcome it, you'll find that you'll have everything in the palm of your hand, even One for All, the power that didn't behave as he saw fit. And we get this imagined visual of Shigaraki like emerging from a cocoon. He's got butterfly wings with holes in them. Oh no, Chris, Aizen is back. He's still evolving. It's still happening. That fight is still happening even though Bleach is over. He's just evolving into another form.
We thought it was over. We thought a year and a half of the manga continued past that point. But no, it's all, that fight's still happening.
Part 578.
God, what was that? Deicide?
Deicide.
Yeah.
And it got to part 27, I think.
Jesus.
half a year of just sub chapters of that. Oh god. Anyhow, we catch up with the Endeavor, who has decoded Hawk's clever message, which nobody could have possibly figured out if he didn't give a very obvious clue to. Meanwhile, Hawks is walking through the base that he's returned to, and he's just, contemplating what's going on, hoping that Endeavor's going to get the message, that they'll have enough forces to do stuff about the army that is on its way. And he thinks, is like, okay, what would we, if we could actually conduct a raid on this place, what would we do? How would we go about it? We do see that, like, he gets stopped at a door at one point. He's like, no, you're not allowed in here. And he's like, what, I can't go into the cafeteria? Which...
It's clearly not the cafeteria.
Yes, you have to get past the guard to get, from going to the buffet line.
They're like, it's beef stroganoff day! We must confirm identity before you suck upon the delicious strog.
Mm-hmm.
The heroes will destroy us if they discover our delicious beef stroganoff recipe. They're like, I can see it. I can see Box the Hamburger Helper right behind you. Look away, swine! Kill him! Kill Hawks!
He's a traitor. He does not appreciate the effort we go into making the beef stroganoff.
We still have to make the ground beef. It's like he doesn't even consider that part of it and how arduous it is.
It's just Hamburger Helper. You still need to make the hamburger. They've like got the Hamburger Helper glove, and it's doing the like middle human liberation sign.
Yeah. Let's go. That's his quirk, his anthropomorphic glove monster. Now, Nick, who would win the fight between the Hamburger Helper glove and the Arby's oven mitt? Back when that was a character.
Oh my god, I completely forgot that was a thing.
It's easy to forget because Arby's now exclusively has become, hey, we reference your nerd culture stuff on Twitter. Please buy our sandwiches. But at one point they did have an oven mitt, and I really wonder who.
Creepy.
Yeah. Which one?
I mean, I think that the Hamburger Helper's glove would have the advantage in terms of dexterity because it actually has the individual fingers. But that oven mitt,
I was gonna say that oven mitt had
it's
power.
got the killer eyes. It would tear it apart. Mm-hmm. Like there'd be no hesitation. That guy's killed before.
Oh yeah. So that's a glove that's fucked.
All right, so anyway, Hawks is trying to figure out what they would do in order to take these guys down. Then suddenly Redestro comes up and is just like, hey, you've been handing out the book to heroes. And Hawks just kind of looks back at him while he, has these very big smiley eyes. And he's like, oh, you completely have grasped what Destro stood for. It's so good to have another true believer here with us. And twice just kind of whispers to him, was like, I don't get what the book is about. Can you tell me?
I'm a fool. Help.
He uses lots of big words and there are no pictures. But Redestro's like, hey, this is great. Your fan base is in the 10 to 20 demographic, so that'll help us spread the word to young people. That's great. We cut back over to Endeavor as he's looking down at the message, and it says we have to bolster our numbers. So he's like, what should I do here? And he remembers being contacted by someone, presumably getting the same message that they did over at UA, that the students need to be brought up quickly. And he was basically told to train the kids as best as he could. So he thinks about this. He thinks about what Hawks told him, and he heads outside. And he's like, what exactly is the plan with these kids? Are they our backup? Are they insurance? One of the sidekicks, Burnin, I think was her name, says that Bakugo and Deku are going to be staying behind because Endeavor only wanted Shoto to go with him. But he comes out of the office and he has all three of them go with him because he now understands the importance of preparing all of them for the coming battle, it seems. We actually see that the reason that Hawks stepped into the battle where he stopped everyone before the kids could do anything was specifically so that they wouldn't get a chance to show how they had grown because he had all of the cameras and stuff on him. And as a result of that, it seemed to have worked because Dobby was under the impression that none of them had grown very much from that. And Hawk says to himself, while he thinks about this, I'm not into raising the next generation, but seeing you ready to rise to the challenge kind of changed my mind. I'm glad it's you who showed up. They're already strong, and they'll get stronger day by day. They're even faster than me. This definitely won't go how the villains are hoping. And we just get 4 pages of just a collage of different shots of the students of UA training with various heroes. We also see some shots of like teachers, even like parents, all for one, just kind of where they are while all this stuff is going on. A lot of them are contemplating the future, and a lot of them are, taking action to try and get stronger. There are little bit details here and there to take note of. Like we see that the girls who went with Ryukyu before, they're back with her. Kirishima's best buddy Tetsu has joined him to train under Fat Gum. There are some odd pairings here and there, like fucking Koda and the washer guy are working together. We see that Aoyama and Ashido are seemingly also under the same hero, though we don't see who the fuck that is.
Is that Hogakure there too?
Oh yeah, her gloves are there. I thought those were Ashido's gloves.
I thought they were at first, and I was like, it doesn't look right. Like, it doesn't look like her right arm is positioned. Like, why is it forward if that would be the back arm?
Yayorozu is training with that one lizard girl who sucks, but is totally good.
She's very talented.
And Chris, the team up of the century. Jiro's working for Gang Orca.
Thank God somebody is. Also, what's his name? Shiro? What's his name? Forearm guy.
I get it eventually.
Shoujo. Is it Shoujo?
It's Shoji.
Soji. Damn it, I was so close. I just needed to try other vowels.
Like I said, you were close to begin with.
I'm like, Sajo, Shiji, Shocho, Shabavo.
There's also some interesting bits that I'm kind of surprised that we just see. Like, I'm pretty sure that that's Todoroki's mom that we get a shot of praying on the last page.
I believe
it's either that or his sister. And also, there's like Toshinori thinking by himself, deep in contemplation. And we also see Eri hang out with Aizawa and Present Mike, and her horn is a little bit longer and is glowing. So this definitely feels like a big like season finale kind of chapter. Just in terms of like this, we've got this thing coming ahead, and everyone is getting ready for it. Even if they don't know that they're getting ready for it, they're getting ready for it. And it's cool to check around and see a lot of the people that we wouldn't normally get any focus on. But it was an odd way to end the chapter, especially because it's been so much of... I mean, this chapter was 17 pages long, and 4 of those pages were these two-page spreads. And the first 2 were the color 2-page spread, and the third page was a blank page that just had the logo in the corner. So, pretty short chapter that is just like getting across one single idea and has a lot of visuals to go with it.
When I read this chapter, my first thought was like, is My Hero Academia ending? Is it getting canceled? No. I was like, this is like a really weird, and they all continued to have fun chapter or something like that. I don't know if this is meant to mean anything or if this is just a here's where everybody is kind of deal. Also, do we get to see Shinsho at all?
Shinso?
Yeah. I didn't see him in any of the panels, but I was wondering if maybe I just missed him.
You're talking about... well, let's see, because maybe he hasn't fully transferred over to the hero course, and so he doesn't get to go on the training thing yet.
Yeah, but I mean, there's shots of other characters who, like characters from other schools and fucking
True.
Million and shit. Like, I just assumed he'd be in there somewhere.
That's a good point. And Fourth most popular character.
I don't know. I'm
or whoever
hearing
he was.
people think like time skip or, all sorts of things, and I don't know. I don't know. My first thought was like, is something happening? Maybe not. Maybe this was just a cool way to be like, hey, here's what everybody's up to, and it really isn't more complicated than that.
Oh, of course, that makes sense. He doesn't have his license yet to get to do the training. Like, he was just transferred to the Hero Corps, so of course he hasn't gotten to take the test for it.
Yeah, again, there's other characters there who aren't at day jobs with teachers, though. So I was just wondering what, like, it felt weird to disclude him when it's like, and here's Todoroki's mom. All right, here's a tree.
Here's
with
a tree.
That tree's gonna be a major. You know what, Nick? That tree, that shot, actually, that's fucking elastic dude. We can't see it, but he's got elastic shit invisible up in the air there. And yeah, that's the gentleman or whatever his fucking name was.
Where's Gentle and
La Brava or whatever. Yeah, that was the panel for them.
Okay, so that was an alright chapter. It was just an odd one to see. All right, let us move on from there to talk a little bit about Beast Children. We've only got 8 chapters to talk about this week, with this one included, so I figured we might as well throw it in there too.
Sure, why not?
This is actually the chapter about how Iki died. Our main character's master and his rival's
father.
Not Iki, Itsuki. Basically, so he was like competing in the World Cup, doing great, having apparently heart problems because he puts on a big smile after one match and he collapses. Then he goes after the semifinals and they win. And he's like, and then all of a sudden we just hear this little squeeze right by his chest. And he's like, oh man, I wish I could have been given a little longer. And then they win the match. And then he suddenly takes the microphone for the post-game interview, and he's like, the World Cup finals, sorry, I've got some stuff to do and won't be playing. This won't make up for it, but my son is going to crush the world someday. And then he drops the microphone and goes, I'm so tired. He falls over, dead. Dun, dun, dun. Wait, the guy who died?
No! No! I thought he was going to join the team as, like, their punter.
And so obviously this very much upset his son, who was like, what happened to getting back up again, no matter how many hundreds of times it takes? Shishigaya was like, what happened, master? His son's like, I'm still not better than you. You have to come back. And what he left the rugby world was a big, huge scar. The beast quietly breathed his last breath on the field. And so then we catch up with his son, who's like, I don't care about what lies beyond the white lines on the field. Only those who are alive can be my opponent. Only those who have survived on this field. This is the only place where I belong. And here comes this guy who time and time again gets back up. Dozens of times over, he charges back in. And we see Shishigaya once more shatter the white world surrounding him and break into his world. And I don't know what to do with him. Hundreds of times over, he, chapter title, gets back up again. It was a very odd chapter.
I like this chapter. It's probably better than a lot of the other ones recently. Like, it does give you the motivation for whatever his name, Kirito, whatever the son's name was. I don't remember. But it does show you Yukito, whatever. I don't know. It does show you why he kind of holds his passion onto it. Like, it's very over dramatic and it's very like bombastic in the way a sports manga tends to be. Like, and he died on the field after just giving a victory speech after winning the World Cup. And
he didn't win the World Cup. He won the semifinals of the World Cup,
which coincidentally Japan is just one match away from in the actual Rugby World Cup right now.
See, Chris, the series works.
So, you know what? Japan's going to win the World Cup, and then they're going to be like, keep Beast Children going. And then somebody, like, it's almost like a bill in Parliament or, like, in Congress where, like, after they're like, keep Beast Children going. And then some guy in the corner is like, it's Bad Busters too! And then Spirit Busters runs for 7 years. Six is like, why?
Yozakura's family gets canceled the next week.
Like, we have no more time or room for it. We need more chapters for Spirit Busters. You heard them. Japan just won the World Cup. They're like, I don't know if those two are connected, though. It's,
Shut up!
You heard that voice in the back of the room. He knew it was up. It's a fine chapter. Like, in the general scheme of things, I think it was probably better than a lot of the other ones. It was a nice build up to something, but it's the same thing too, where you're like, this series can't possibly run another month, right? Or is this?
No, I don't think so.
I can't imagine, but let's talk about another series that may be ending very soon, Nick. Oh wait, no, we talk about whatever family first.
We talk about Mission Yozakura family first,
right.
Which I'm not sure, but I think is doing okay so far. It's hard to tell because it's only 8 chapters in, and that's kind of where things start to get a little weird. And also the first volume will be dropping pretty soon. But I think that up until that point, things are actually going okay for it. Fingers crossed. Because I would love to enjoy talking about the series more. Mission 8, 3 minutes.
To midnight. Da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Did I just hear myself say 3 minutes?
Oh my god!
I don't know.
I'm gonna get the Rosie and Jamal Driver, whatever.
Just take the fake face off that I've been wearing for 10 years.
Hey, moment of silence. He's gone now.
Both of them are.
He's back. Well, no, I meant Eric Bischoff.
Oh yeah, because he was
not the actual wrestlers being dead, which is an unfortunate truth.
It's horrible,
but
yes.
The quiet realization that Eric Bischoff has gone from the company after doing nothing again.
Basically, absolutely nothing. Anyway, so Mutsumi is gonna get rescued because Tayo has got her kidnapper Hanawa on the ground with the electric gun pointed at his face. Hanawa suddenly throws his scissors into the barrel of the gun, which explodes. That's how guns work.
Yep, it's just science.
And he goes to gouge out Tayo's eye with the same scissors, but Tayo is able to get out of the way, and he only gets a scratch in the face. And Hanawa explains that, if your weapon can separate, you can use it for things other than dismantling and disconnecting. It comes in handy at times like this. Guns are easy to use, but the noise and big impact can be obtrusive. As a spy, it's good to know your simple weapons too. Scissors! Simple weapons! But he's like, gardening shears can cut up a plant while its cells are still alive. I mean, if you have a sharp enough blade, yes, you can do that with any blade, but anyway. But it can be more lethal than a military knife, so keep your distance if you value your fingers and eyes. But Tayo recalls Kyoichiro's advice on what to do in this kind of situation, because normally the more time passes, the better, because our siblings will start to arrive. But Hanao will just go on the defensive and try to kill time because he has an ace up his sleeve. He'll use a squadron of helicopters to keep us occupied while he escapes with Mutsumi by ship or submarine.
Yeah,
and sure enough,
that's the ace up his sleeve. Not like, he has 7 aces up his sleeve just in case. He has a small army, just that ace up his sleeve.
And sure enough, his flower delivery company has sent out cargo helicopters and submarines to assist.
You know what? If I'm the innocent bystander looking out over the river and I see that a flower delivery company has a motherfucking submarine, I'm ordering from that company. I'm like, those fuckers care about how quick my flowers are getting to you.
They will go anywhere.
I was like, I need flowers shipped across Lake Erie to my grandmother. And you're like, we'll use our flower bin Lake Erie speedboat to accomplish that. Like, thank God.
I love manga. So, not only does Tayo have to defeat this guy who has demonstrated that he is superior to him, He's got to do it in 3 minutes because that's about how long he's got until the helicopters and submarines arrive to bail Hanawa out. So Taiyo rushes in. He gets out some wire, the same kind that that Kyoichiro uses, and he quickly wraps it around the scissors and twists Hanawa's arm with it. And while recalling Kyoichiro's advice, which was high quality blades can be dismantled for maintenance, so it's similar to picking a safe or a lock. You can neutralize it. And sure enough, he somehow manages to take a little pin from his hair and undo the screw that holds the blades of the shears together and disassembles the scissors in Hanawa's hand. And he's like, yes, I've got this. But then suddenly he stumbles and Hanawa catches one of the blades of the scissors and he says, you were so close. And he slashes across Taiyo's chest, knocks him to the ground. And he's like, what's going on? My vision's blurring. I can't move. And Alex just starts listing off plants: water lily, lily of the valley, hydrangea, azalea. And he says, it's my own special organic blend of poisonous plants, so enjoy it to its fullest. It's known for its immediate effects, but it took quite a long time for you, so I guess that training of yours isn't just for show. No matter how much you built yourself up, though, you really have no understanding of how this world works. And he basically says that as a result of the family interfering in his operations, they've really fucked him up because they stopped one item that was being distributed. And he's like, you probably thought you were doing something good, but did you think about what would happen because you stopped it? The ransom was supposed to be delivered in a few hours, didn't get paid. The unapproved wonder drug that was supposed to be delivered in a few days. The weapons and mercenaries that were a few weeks late that would have decided the outcome in a fight against a dictatorial regime. Your selfishness has caused a lot of disruptions around the world, and Taiyo says, that's got nothing to do with me. I've never thought that I was in the right. I don't even care if what you're doing is wrong. And despite the poisonous, he stands up and he starts to tighten cables around his stomach so that he can staunch the wound that he's received a little bit. He says, I just want to get Mutsumi back. And so Hana was like, well, you guys are really troublesome, so I should nip you while I still can. And Mutsumi realizes that Taiyo's in trouble. She spots the other blade from the scissors lying next to her. And so she grabs it and throws it at Hanawa's head, but he dodges it by just jerking his head to the side. And he's like, don't bother trying to do something you're not used to. Just be obedient like the merchandise you are. And then in front of him, Taiyo grabs the blade and is like, oh, she wasn't aiming for me. She just wanted to pass the blade to him. I'm an idiot. And Taiyo rushes in. They clash the two scissor blades together, which both shatter each other apart. And Taiyo declares, Mutsumi isn't merchandise. She's my wife. And clocks him in the head and knocks him off the truck. And Mutsumi is saved. And then Panawa's men are like, we've got to go save the president. And Kyoichiro's like, no, you're not. And he throws the truck at them. And Kyoichiro grabs Mutsumi and Taiyo both, although he's standing on top of Taiyo as a platform. And he's like, hey, good job. And even though he's stepping on Taiyo because he still doesn't quite like him, he congratulates him and says, he's got the strength to protect you, Mutsumi. Isn't that right, my brother Taiyo Asano? And the chapter ends with the entire family reuniting and embracing Mutsumi. They won! This was an awesome chapter.
I was not as high on this chapter. I thought it was good, but I really am bothered that I feel like, despite the fact she threw the blade, I was like, yeah, he's 100% right. This is another series where the female protagonist is just sort of the damsel who sits there and looks after the main. Like, all this chapter needed was a moment where she looked over and she was like, oh, Taiyo-kun, or some shit like that. Like, I was just like, I'm just kind of tired of this fucking gimmick. And I'm hoping this was their thing to do it once and kind of be done with it. Because it felt like this was sort of a very expedited first arc to kind of establish what this series could be. And from here on, it'll be something different. But it definitely bothered me during this chapter. I was just like, I'm tired of this sort of gimmick that they've done way too many times.
I mean, they have established that that's kind of like the premise is that Moose is the one they've got to protect. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, two other siblings in the family are girls, and one of them is basically the strongest one besides Kyoichiro. I don't know. We'll see how the
it's still
sexualization.
It's always still the thing though, where you're like, well, hey, when it comes down to it, though, the main character is a dude, and he has a love interest as a girl, and he's got to protect her. You know.
I just thought the action was good, and I liked that. I appreciate that the series can kind of always maintain this humor that it's got, not even really by just doing a jokey joke, but just by being like, yes, my flower delivery company is going to send helicopters and submarines to bail me out. So I thought this was really fun.
Yeah, I could take that.
Let's move on to Samurai 8.
Nick.
Oh,
Perhaps
no,
it's time for another spooky look into the Spookmaster General's life. You see, Nick, the Spookmaster General had a very difficult life growing up.
Oh, no.
His cat could only bark. His toast always landed jelly side up. And no matter how many times he turned his pillow over, there was never a cool side. It was real twisted shit like that.
Why is it bad if the jelly side up lands up?
Because that's not how it's supposed to be, Nick. In reality, dogs bark and your toast lands jelly side down. This is just to show the twisted landscape he grew up in.
But I thought that landing jelly side down was bad luck.
Oh, of course, it's much more edible this way, but it's wrong. It's wrong, and that's the twisted kind of shit he grew up with every single day. And the rumors say that this is all the result of the curse that was placed on the Spookmaster's family, likely as a result of them being the ones to invent the national pastime of fortune teller tripping.
Fortune teller tripping?
Yeah, that's the national pastime that's swept across the nation, that mostly only our family participates in, of tripping fortune tellers, and that might be why we're cursed. Ooh.
You think that, it happens enough times that eventually, the fortune tellers and the gypsies are just kind of like, oh, you again. Curse on your family.
It was a collective, but just the fortune tellers, yeah. They're all about that.
All right, Samurai 8.
Sure.
Chapter 22. Anne and her brother. Last time, Hachimaru unlocked a pure, shining white blade. Oh, what a powerful prayer Anne gave him. Hooray! It actually starts to cut into the new samurai's sword because it's so powerful. And so new samurai is like, oh my gosh, this prayer is so powerful. Only years of trust can forge a bond this tight, but they're so young. They don't look like siblings. Are they related by blood? No, it's more than that. This princess has a deeper emotion driving her. And it's an Anne flashback chapter.
Really, I know you're not intentionally doing it, but the pace you're going is so rapid quick, and I really feel that's the pace the chapter had to go with.
Really is.
It's like, wow, this is really incredible, and then we go into the flashback, and Anne had a brother, and her brother did these things, and then these things, and then that's what this means, and this is what this means for Hachimaru, and it's like, fuck, dude, all right.
So, if you recall, in Bleach, there was a character...
Bleach, right?
Sure, why not? There was a character named Kaien Shiba, who was very important to Rukia's backstory, because she felt guilt over him getting killed, and wouldn't you know it, he bore an uncanny resemblance, for no real reason, to Ichigo. And so there was the whole thing of hey, there was this person that meant a lot to Rukia, and so she ends up meeting this guy who kind of looks a lot like him. So some sort of weird parallels and stuff like that. Well, it turns out that the same thing is going on with Anne. And as her nose starts to bleed, I guess from her psychic powers, I don't know, she starts to have a flashback. And she remembers that her older brother looked a lot like Hachimaru. And so the point of everything... Her brother was also a Nanashi. Not the same Nanashi, because Nanashi means nameless, and so it's not his real name. But he was a nameless Nanashi. And so Nanashi, Anne's brother, vowed to protect her despite the fact that he was very weak. He just was. He was physically weak. He wanted to be a samurai. He wanted to be a strong samurai so that he could protect her. Hey, check out this cool top knot that he has. You can't be a samurai unless you've got a top knot. And Anne's like, smile. And then the guys, random, wanted to also be samurai bullies, came over to beat him up. and he protected her, and they kept on trying to attack him, and she finally stepped in the way to try and protect him, and she got hit instead, and they're like, oh no, I beat up a girl. And they ran off, and so they're both beaten up, and Nanashi An's brother is like, I'm sorry, Ann, I failed to keep you safe after I promised that's what I would do. He's crying about this. He goes in front of some Oni Buddhist monk statue things and carries her up to them. She falls unconscious, and Anne thinks to herself as she falls unconscious in the flashback, don't apologize, big brother. You're always so kind to me. All I want is for you to be here next to me. And she wakes up, and he's committed seppuku. He's stabbed himself in the gut. And he apologizes to her and says, I wasn't a strong big brother, but now I'll be able to protect you. I'll be a perfect samurai. And so Anne admits to herself that I just wanted to forget about my brother. I was nearly done pulling his memories loose. But now my memories are connected again, and we see that there are many parallels that between her time with Hachimaru and her time with her brother, including him smiling and her brother smiling, her looking at Hachimaru's back and her looking at his brother's back, her talking to Hachimaru and her talking to her brother. Not very strong parallels.
No, it's like clearly this is meant to be a flashback after a lot more time has been spent between An and Hachimaru, and it's like, remember that time you bought goggles? I remember when my brother didn't have goggles but had a top knot, which is essentially what your goggle kind of hairstyle forced you into, and I also viewed him from the back. God, you two are like, I don't know how you're this similar.
And so she admits to herself, the truth is, I knew deep down I didn't actually want to forget about my brother at all. Once I met Hachimaru, I realized I wanted to stay connected to him. And the flashback ends. Hachimaru follows through. He is completely chopped through the other samurai's sword, and they are doing the, back-to-back pose that samurai in a duel do. And okay, I mean, like, this would have been far more impactful if we had gotten to know Anne better and in this had gotten more time. I mean, I'm totally okay with the idea that the connection that Anne feels for Hachimaru is more replacing the connection that she felt for her brother. And also maybe that's the reason that their connection is so strong is because there is like another samurai soul that she carries with her that contributes to Hachimaru's power. Whatever, that's fine. It literally is just a matter of like, it's not very good because it's so rushed. And this kind of came completely out of nowhere with no warning. So,
yeah, like this is a good chapter to have in this series, but the pacing of the series kind of really hasn't given us the time to get to know Anne enough to be like, oh, I wonder what her backstory is or things like that. We're kind of abruptly thrown into it to be like, all right, this was all going to be very, very relevant to Hachimaru's power up, to explain why he's getting so much power and everything like that. We just have to do it now. Like, just pull the trigger and go for it. So, I like the chapter. It's just, it's kind of sad when you're like, yeah, this is what this series is basically going to become.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on.
Before we move on, dear Nicholas.
Ooh.
Another Spookmaster General fact. For you see...
Gotta get all these in because we've only got a few more manga to talk
about
this
week.
I
miscalculated. The Spookmaster General, Nick, is a big fan of professional wrestling. And it is deftly able to go on wrestling-related tangents. His favorite wrestlers are Darby Allin, Aleister Black, and Candice LeRae.
One of these things is not like the others.
But the Spookmaster General does not like the Fiend, Nick.
Well, okay. Why is that?
Because the Fiend is basically monster blackface, and it is very offensive to us. Ooh.
But Darby Allin isn't?
Nope, he's just the perfect level of spooktastic.
He's just some little kid who skateboards and decided to paint his face half like a skull.
He's so spooky, though. It's very satisfying.
That's not his gimmick. Being spooky's not his gimmick.
He's just the right level of spooky for the Spookmaster.
Oh, did you see the way that he skateboarded and ran into Chris Jericho? So spooky!
He could have come from anywhere, you know? Plus,
as long as there was a long straight path without anything in the way.
It really was helpful that there was a decline, too, to help build up speed.
Oh, if Jericho had been on the other side of the ramp, he would have been out of luck.
But it also works because his name can easily become Darbu Allen.
You can't do that, can you, Alistair Bulak? No.
Alistair Bulak works. Can Boo Slaboo. It all works perfectly. The feet you can't do anything with. Might as well just make him a governor for how offensive he is. Alright, let's talk about...
You could have gone with Candace LeGrave or something like that. And no, can boost LeBoo.
Let's talk about We Never Learn, Nick.
Watch AEW.
Question 131. Sometimes their pizza pet is flexible.
But, Spookmaster General, don't you mean sometimes their pizza boo is flexible?
I don't get it.
Oh man.
Maybe I'm gonna take that one on the road. I'm gonna see how I feel when I get home. That might be an on the homer, you know.
Yeah, I gotta like actually.
I gotta process.
Do a little bit of rewriting. Yeah. Punch it up.
Gonna try to take it up the next notch. I think you just need to sell it. A pizza boot. There you go.
That's way better.
So the chapter opens with Asahi walking in with Sekijo in a pool of her own blood, and
it's Asumi, not Asahi.
Asumi, rather. Who's Asahi?
That Food would be Erina's brother.
Food Wars. Asumi walking in on Sekijo in a pool of her own blood, and Ogata on top of Yuega in what seems like a very compromising situation. Nick, we just started en medio res. And now...
You know what's actually really disturbing about this picture? Mm-hmm. Sekijo actually is lying in her pool of her own blood. Yeah.
It's the spooky chapter for Halloween, Nick.
Yeah, apparently.
Mm-hmm. So, we cut back to when the three of them are all just studying together. And Ogata's like, man, my shoulders really are stiff. And Sekijo's like, it's because of your breasts. And, Yuega's like, please stop shouting, breasts in my household. And Sekijo's like, you don't get it.
The thing is, she's probably right, actually.
Almost certainly. Because wasn't it, did Ogata, be confirmed to have, a double F-size cup or some shit like that?
I believe that at last check, she had G cups.
Yeah, so.
Which is really big. And she is a small person, and I will never have, first-person experience with this, but I understand that, yes, women with small builds who have large breasts do get a lot of back pain. So,
indeed. So, Ogata's like, stop saying breasts. And eventually Yuega's like, well, maybe, we've been studying too long, we're just a little bit stiff. So Ogata's like, I know just the thing. And we get a weird shot of Sekijo stretching.
This whole sequence could have been much more titillating than it ended up being, because they're all still wearing their winter clothes, which they keep on while they're stretching.
Yes. So they're all trying to stretch, but the joke is that only Sekijo is really stretching. Yuega's not really, and
he's not an athlete.
Which is weird because he has defined abs, but whatever. And Ogata's like, oh wow, you're barely doing anything. And she starts to be like, if you don't stick with this, you're gonna be really stiff one day. I recommend doing a little bit every day. And then they look and she's like, you haven't done anything. It's just sitting there and she's just
this is how much she has moved forward while trying to bend forward.
Meanwhile, Sekijo's fucking bending her arm up to this. She's doing fucking front back splits.
she's going to like fit herself inside of a box or something like that.
Nick, this was actually a very important question that was asked by Tyler Breeze and Big E. What do you call the thing that Sekijo is doing?
Oh yeah, it's the splits.
It's the split.
Now,
so you're standing with Tyler Breeze.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I do, however, believe that doing a singular of them can be referred to as a split, but I believe the more proper term is the splits. So
there you go. All right, Nick standing firmly with Tyler Breeze. Fuck the New Day, says Nicholas Freeman. They're all wrong, and I hate them.
I mean, Tyler Breeze is the best part of the Up Up Down Down channel. So
did you watch? Did you ever watch? Not to get off on a random tangent, but hey, we've already got only 3 series left.
Hey, look, I have never talked about Tyler Breeze on Up Up Down Down before. I love him.
I was gonna say, do you watch the Raw or the GM show?
I love that show.
There is nothing better than the episode where he loses Eddie Guerrero, and it's just fucking Xavier Woods screaming in Saudi Arabia, throwing his notebook across the room.
They get so okay. You don't need to know anything about wrestling, guys, to watch Tyler Breeze and Xavier Woods, or Austin Creed as he goes by on the channel, play GM mode on the Up Up Down Down YouTube channel, because it's just them basically playing fantasy football with each other with a wrestling game and trying to make this video game give them bigger numbers than the other guy. That's all that it is.
And how, like, 3 weeks in, it's already over.
It's
because
Xavier Woods
quickly.
Doesn't know how to play the game in terms of you need to have money.
It's one of the best moments that for the first 3 months, like, I think there's going to be a point where all of his guys are just going to stop being on contract at the exact same time.
And Breeze is saying for weeks ahead of time, I don't think he's realized that something is happening and he's going to get screwed at one point. And sure enough, it all comes at one point where he doesn't have the time because they only get themselves 5 minutes where he can't do everything to set up his show and re-sign all of his guys. And then they do a punishment at the end of the year, and it's ridiculous.
The punishment's so glorious. You see the happy birthday afterwards?
I don't think
there's a happy birthday video that takes place right after. It got posted before, but you see it.
Oh, okay, yes.
That's the best. Where he's like, no! I love that he gets hit with it, and his first reaction is like, I didn't bring another shirt! I have to get on an airplane like this! Oh, it's very funny. Anyways, guys, this is not a great chapter. We never learned something to distract ourselves from it a little bit.
I just want to say, well, the thing about it is that it is 2 guys who are legitimate best friends and geeks hanging out, and that's what's so fun about it.
Yeah,
so
it is supremely cool. Go check it out.
It's just that they have way bigger arms than we do. So
we're basically, I think I'm the Tyler Breeze. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
Audience, let's throw it to you guys. Which one of us is the Tyler Breeze and which one of us is the Austin Creed in this relationship?
Which one of us is the male model and which one of us is black?
Oh no, it's the wrong makeup to be wearing for that.
Anyway,
so there's just basically
stretching.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of jokes about oh wow, maybe you'd be more effective if you guys did partner stretches. I don't know any, because Sekiju's I never really had a friend to stretch with. So both of them are I'll stretch with you, and she's no, you guys fucking stretch with each other, god damn it. So they're going about, they're doing it. Ogata's getting stretched, and because of that, her chest is kind of being, stretched. And Sekijo is looking at it in a purely platonic way and thinking, wow, this is really stimulating. Her exact words is stimulating.
I believe Chris. Okay.
Spookmaster General.
To get a little bit ahead of the point.
Spookmaster General.
To get ahead of the point, Spookmaster General, my bet with Chris did not go well this week. Because I'm pretty sure that we could confirm that Sekijo's sexual orientation is not straight.
It's definitely not at this point.
However, the bet was that she's in love with Ogata.
Okay.
So, still not confirmed, but this was not good for
me. This is where you're hey, we don't know that it's fucking...
Look, Sekijo is just... Ogata is just her best friend whose breasts she also thinks are great.
Look, Nick, sometimes I've been like hanging out with some of my best buds and I'm like, God, that dude's cock is hot. And it doesn't mean I'm in love with them or anything else like that. It's a purely platonic, just like appreciation of the great fucking cock that's in front of me.
Thank you, Spookmaster General. It's good that you've got my back against Chris.
The Spookmaster General stands on all sides of love so that he can murder them. Don't let them do any sexual stuff in my haunted mansion or barn. So Ogata tries to stretch Yuiga. Her breasts are too big. They're so big, Nick. They're so big. They pop the button straight off her shirt, and they nail Sekijo in the forehead with such force they stick to her forehead. They dunk in there and they stay in there for a bit. And Sekijo's nose just starts spraying blood everywhere. And then we come.
I appreciated the delayed reaction so that we could see the buttons on her forehead, and then she watches Ogata with her cleavage going, and then her nose goes.
Yes.
So then we know it's like no. This wasn't like a pressure point was struck. No, this is her getting turned on.
Yes, this is absolutely her being like, "This is hot. I love this." So
it's too much blood, by the way.
Yeah, she's dead. Sekijo died today. So now we go back to the start where Sumi's like, "What's going on?" And Sekijo apparently left. Like
she specifically says, "My nose won't stop bleeding, so I'd better go home."
Yes, and then she finishes off by saying, goodbye." My window wasn't open for that, was it? Okay. So basically, Asumi's looking at the situation, and she's like, "This is really weird. Like, Yuiga's really, like, he's sweaty. He's kind of, like, a little ruffled up. Like, he's breathing heavily. And Ogata, like, what the fuck? Her neckline is fucking down there. Like,
I like how there's a caption that says slightly plunging necklines. Like, no, it's not. There's no slightly about it.
Not at all. And she's thinking, she's like, what were you guys doing? You're getting really friendly.
Were you guys having sex, basically?
And in classic We Never Learned fashion, Yuiga's just like, whoa, well, we were doing, and then Ogata interrupts. Even as he starts it, he's like, we were doing partner stretch. She's like, no, it was great. Really took my mind off of studying. We had very different, like, experience levels, and at first it was kind of awkward, but then it felt really, really good. And that's the end of her, like, explanation.
And Asumi's just like doesn't know how to react to this because she's like, "Wow,
okay."
Like, because she's a little bit angry with Yuiga because she deliberately, accidentally taps his foot to hurt him. So she's clearly jealous. But as apparently, because we learn later that she is under the impression that they just did it.
Yes.
And her reaction to this is just to go, "Oh, wow." Like, apparently she is so determined to not show being affected by this that she's just like, nope, I'm just gonna.
It feels like she
maintain a poker face.
I was like, I feel like she intended that little tease to be like, clearly that's not the situation that's going on here, but I'm gonna poke fun at the fact that it definitely looks like it. And Ogata does nothing but to confirm that fact, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Sorry about your foot, dickhead." Anyway, he's like, "Oh, clearly there's something wrong with Asumi. Famino, give me your guidance. What should I do?" And he stands up. He's like, "Oh, maybe, are you jealous, Asumi? Maybe you want to do it with me." So he says, "I wouldn't tease you about something like this, and I care about how you feel. Will you let me do it with you too?" And she starts like going like, "No, absolutely not. I'm not ready. No, you're younger than me. I can't." And then he starts helping her do a stretch. And I like her face because she's like, "Ah!" And then he's like, stretch. He's like, "See? How's that, senpai? We'll stretch like this from now on." And her eyes just open. She's like, "Okay, I'm sorry. What's going on?" It's a great so it's like, hold on. Start clearing this up a little bit. So what's going on?
"I thought you were jealous because you didn't have anyone to stretch with." "Oh, you're asking for it."
Yeah, she gets real upset there. So we cut away to just Ogata and Asumi leaving, and she's like, "Yeah, in the end, were we wrong about you being jealous? She's like, yes, you were wrong. And Ogata
Yes,
laughs.
definitely.
Yeah, Ogata laughs. And Asumi's like, you changed. You know that? And Ogata's like, I think you've changed too. You've become more approachable. And Asumi says, well, if that's really true, then it's just some moron's fault. And Ogata agrees. Yes, it must be some moron's fault. And our end of the chapter joke is Ogata being like, hey, what did you mean when you said I'm not ready? And then Asumi's like, fuck off! Forget it! You heard nothing!
I definitely wasn't thinking about having a devil's triangle. But I'm a girl too. Shut up! So, yeah, there were some good little moments in it, as there tend to be in We Never Learn chapters, but it was, again, just like, oh, Aki's misunderstanding, which is definitely not when We Never Learn's at its strongest, because any harem series could do that kind of chapter, and whatever. But I guess we had to have, we're going to have a few chapters to come down from Yuga nearly dying,
Yeah.
So. All right. Let's move on then to Dr. Stone.
But
it is
Nick,
chapter. What is that? What's new detail?
Fact about the Spookmaster General is the Spookmaster General grew up in a cursed household and was very lonely growing up. And he had but one friend in his life.
No.
Dr. Poopenstein was his only friend.
I can't believe that thing still works.
This is high quality craftsmanship all the way from, let's say China. I don't know.
Yes. All right. It's Dr. Stone's E equals 125 decisive 3-dimensional battle. So they are going to launch their operation so that they can get the petrification device away from the petrification kingdom. In order to do this, Senku says that they need 4 things: hoods, the drone, the gun, and wire. And so hoods is pretty quickly taken care of. Amaryllis manages to sneak out some clothing and food from the village, and Yuzuriha quickly whips up the hoods. And Amaryllis, however, gets the idea that a lot of work's being done in this cave. Between all the machines that they're creating and stuff like that. So Amaryllis runs back to her village and gets all the guys who wanted to be her suitors, and she's like, "Oh, I managed to escape them, and I hoped that my strong, manly suitors wouldn't have forgotten about me, and I wish to elope with one of you, but I can only elope with the strongest one, maybe the one who beats drums the hardest at the next festival." And she's like, "This is never going to work." And immediately like,
her face is the best.
Yo gets some more practice in with the gun. With the noise being made by the drums, he can actually fire it at will, and he's actually getting a lot better with it. Hooray! So that's 2 for 2 that they're good with. But again, points out, all right, yeah, but the drone's really ramshackle. It's not working very well. We need to be able to very precisely get this thing. And also, hey, the enemy's string that they've got the device on could get tangled in our propellers. So isn't that going to possibly happen? Wouldn't that result in a tug of war? And so Senku's like, yes. For this, we need our power team. And hey, just mentioned a few of the people that show up here in the last chapter that haven't gotten to do anything. So Kinro wakes up, Nikki wakes up, Magma wakes up, hooray. And Kinro immediately looks around and sees that Ginro is not around. And so he asks what happened to his brother. And they explain the situation, and Amaryllis apologizes for it because she was actually there when it happened. But Kinro smiles, and Senku's like, "Hey, you thought he was dead, didn't you?" Oh, I'm sorry. Kohaku's quick thinking saved him. And they say that he will be tasked with leading the Hood Squad. They need him to do it because someone's got to actually be good at using a spear when they go out and do this. Otherwise, they're going to see through the bluff of this strong force of warriors that's supposed to be. And Kinro gets this big full-page spread to say, "I understand and I accept." So, and he says that they will achieve victory, and he suits up in one of the hooded outfits to lead the away team. And then they're like, all right, now let's do some tug-of-war training. And Magma and Taiju get on opposite ends of a rope, and the rope snaps. And Senku's like, that's why we need a wire. And so they actually get out the cotton candy machine from forever ago, and they get some dregs from the burning coal, tar, use that, tangle it together, and then they are able to get a wire as a result of this. A carbon wire, which will be super strong. And so Gen's like, oh, that's great. Wait a minute, this means that we need to wind a lot of these together, doesn't it? And sure enough, they do. They've got to tie a whole bunch of it together in order to make a proper rope so that they can actually use this. And then Chrome looks at the tops that they're using to spin these threads out, and he's like, wait a minute, those things are really stabilized when they're spinning in the air. And Senku explains that, yes, it's the gyroscopic effect. Things that are spinning at high speeds wobble less, which is why the Earth doesn't rattle around on its axis. And so Chrome's like, my insight has kicked in. See, the drone is really super wobbly. So what if we take one of those fidget spinners and put it right in the middle of the drone? That way it'll be spinning. That way it'll be way more stabilized. And Senku's like, oh my God, that's a great idea, which I have already made. What a dick. What a complete and absolute douchebag. That's a great idea, Chrome. I've already made it.
It's already done.
And they've got these... They've got all these gyroscopic things going on. They've also got another thing going with the, like, I forget what this thing actually is, but it's a coil-based variable resistor, a potentiometer. Sliding these switches adjusts the voltage. And so they've got this thing so that you can increase the juice to just one propeller, and as a result of that, really pilot it around. But they say, okay, this requires some really complicated controls, though, because you're adjusting the spinning speed of 4 different propellers at once. And so we get another one of those moments, just like the one we had with Gen a couple of chapters ago, as Ryusuke's like, in order to do this, we would need someone used to piloting and able to read wind patterns on the fly. But who? Oh, right.
Oh, right, me.
So he starts practicing with it, and he pretty immediately picks it up. And he's like, I mean, it's like playing a video game. And when I was little, I received training to become a pro gamer. Like, of course you did. Fucking rich boy. There is a shot I want to make note of here. It's just a very small panel where Yo is practicing with the gun, and Magma's over his shoulder looking at him.
Yeah. Well, because they have a jealousy. So, like, they have a rivalry going on, so Magma's not happy.
But Magma's kind of looking at the gun.
Maybe.
I don't know. I could be reading a little bit too much into it, but maybe he sees this as, a thing of power. Because, remember, he's not a good person. No. He's just, interested in what science can achieve. So,
Maybe, what do you think the gun represents his id?
Yes, and the holster represents his super ego, and the yo represents his ego. I don't know. Never gonna live that.
I do wonder.
Thank God I was right about the bubble fruit. Otherwise, Toriko would have been my bane in terms of making theories.
Now, do you think becoming a professional gamer is going to become the new, like, stereotypical WASP sport? Like, it's going to replace, like, horse riding. It's going to be like, well, my father trained me to be a Call of Duty professional player.
Oh, my God.
Only rich people can afford to jump into the hobby like that.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? I don't know. I think the gaming is a little bit too mainstream now, but who knows? It could turn out to be that way. So, they've got all their equipment now, and they're saying that this is all going to happen when the sun rises. And sure enough, over in the petrification village, Mose calls down from a treetop saying that the hooded army has shown itself, and he says Akiri-sama and himself will have to go and do battle with them. And so the muscle group goes and sets off wearing the hoods to enact their plan to snag the petrification device. Senku says all of our science equipment combined is going to take their Medusa. So, nice little chapter.
Supremely cool chapter. A fantastic moment for Kinro, where he just looks so cool. Like, he has the cool moment of, immediately being like, I know something happened to Ginro. What happened? his cool moment, like almost a 2-page spread of him, like, I understand, I accept. But just how fucking dope he looks in the armor for some reason.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why,
it's
but
cool.
it's like,
It's a cool hoods. Yeah.
it's supremely cool. So really dug this chapter. I was a big fan of it, and I'm really excited for next week.
All right. This week's kind of hard on me because we don't have the Crunchyroll series to break things up. But anyway, The Promised Neverland.
Nick, perhaps I could break things up for you with the
help.
final piece of the backstory for the Spookmaster General. This is the good one, Nick. This is the one I've stored. You see, the Spookmaster General possesses the power to kill anyone, anywhere, so long as they are within proximity to a Halloween-specific pun. So, 2 people get on a plane, they're like, well, thank goodness we managed to get on this Boeing jet. And I say, don't you mean this Boeing jet? And then I pop out of the overhead compartment and I kill them with a pickaxe.
Why a pickaxe?
And then someone's like, ooh, I'm really hungry. I think I'll make dinner tonight. Perhaps I'll make elbow macaroni. And I'm like, but don't you mean elbow macaroni? And I pop out of their toilet and I kill them in the head with the pickaxe.
So is the Spookmaster General's weapon of choice a pickaxe?
A pickaxe? It's not my first choice, but you see, there's monster solidarity. Jason already has the machete. Freddy Krueger's laid claim to, like, knives on fingers. Mike Myers, I don't know how the fuck he did. He just says all knives, no matter what. I'm not crazy about it, but he's one of the legends, so you kind of just give it to him. So I had to find my own, and I settled on the pickaxe as my weapon of choice.
I mean, at least it's pretty easy to believe is a good weapon, but
unfortunately, really, nobody has ever done this in a mine. I haven't gotten anybody there with a pickaxe to feel really appropriate. I really feel anachronistic every time I kill somebody next to a gumbool machine because I pop out my pickaxe and I get them.
Oh my god.
So yeah,
they're like, oh man, I hope that there's no fumes that'll kill this parakeet. And you're like, damn it, there's nothing there I can work with. Nothing with a bee.
I don't even try to think of another word. Like, Scarakeet was right there. I mean, like, Booakeet, Paraboo,
oh, damn it, they're already out of position.
They're already left.
I can't jump out of this cavern with my pickaxe. I guess I'll just go home.
Ah, fuck, it's Tuesday. I missed the moment by thinking about how I could fit Boo into Parakeet for 3 days.
No one has said Tuesday, and I can't call it Booze Day.
Oh.
Damn it.
One day I'm going to get somebody next to a calendar. I swear to God it'll happen.
All right. Okay. It's chapter 154 of The Promised Neverland. Norman has just asked Ray and Emma to save him, and he wants to have hope, even though he thinks it's too late. So he actually reaches out and embraces them. And we get a little shot of them as kids accepting his embrace. And they say, welcome back. But, Norman claims, it's impossible. Because of the drugs administered to us at Lambda, we don't have any time. I can't live with you. Even so, he asks them for help. His followers are shocked by this because they thought that he was separated from the rest of them. He was a special sample. They thought he was the only one who was not a guinea pig. And Norman explains that that was a lie. He was kept separately, but he was also experimented on with drugs. And he says his seizures have already advanced to level 4. And he lied because he wanted to be a boss that they could rely on. He didn't want them to be concerned for anyone and feel hesitant about leaving things to him. And then Ray's just like, is that all the secret you have? Anything else? I mean, I know them already, but did you want to tell Emma anything? It's just to, save her the embarrassment. So, Norman says, great guy that he is, I don't regret killing the queen and the aristocrats, but if we don't have to kill any more, then I don't want to. It says, I don't want to eradicate them. I want to end what I already did, including the poison I spread in town, and I don't want to give up on the lives of the Lambda group. Even if the possibility is close to zero, I want to try again. I want to try as many times as I can to save everyone, including myself. And they say, all right, we'll do something about this. Vincent says, are you kidding me? You're saying this now? As he points out, it's kind of late to go back on this point. He's like, we've already given up our lives. The only salvation we have is eradicating the demons. We're going to build a new world, and you said you weren't going to look back. Now you're saying this. And you're not just abandoning the plan, you're getting in our way. And so he says he's not going to stop, even if you quit, even if you get in the way. I'm going to carry it on. But the others stop him. They say, no, we get it. We've sensed how the boss has been suffering, but he's amazing and can do anything. As a result of that, we've been dependent on him taking advantage of his ability and his kindness and making him shoulder everything, using him as a tool for revenge, even though he's human like us. So do what you want to do, boss. If you want to stop the plan, then that's fine. And he's like, look, I hate demons. I can't forgive them. I want revenge, but you're more important to me than that, and I'll follow your lead. And Barbara agrees. And Zazie has taped his bag back together and puts it back on. He's like, no one must see my slightly veiny face. And Vincent is upset about this, but he does not object further for the rest of the chapter. Emma says that they have heard about the Lambda seizures because Donagilda told them about them, because, of course, that happened to all of the Lambda people that were sent to exterminate Sanju and Mujika. And Emma says that Donagilda have realized something, which is that all of the Lambda children took the drugs. They're all getting seizures, but, of course, they have spent this entire time with Adam, who was at a Lambda from Lambda, and he doesn't get any seizures. He was on the same drugs, but he has never shown any of the symptoms. So they say, like, well, I mean, there's differences in terms of when they first happen, so we can't say for sure he's not going to have any. But Vincent gets a little bit of hope at this point, saying that he hasn't received any treatment since leaving Lambda, but he's never had any seizures. That's unusual. And if it's true that he took the drugs and hasn't had any side effects, then there is a possibility that he could be the breakthrough to save everyone in the Lambda group. Hooray! Everyone could be saved. Beret says, we've got to hurry, though, because there's a large group of soldiers searching for the base. Kind of forgot about those, I will admit. But yeah, that large group of demons that they spotted on their way here, yes, they're still trying to find everything, and Oliver and Zach and Nigel and Gillian are going to try and handle it. I'm sure they'll be fine on their own.
Just how it works.
They've got to hurry back to the base. Vincent says, but how are we going to do that? The citizens in town are poisoned. The bodies and blood of the royal family, the dead Gillian clan, the 5 region houses, they're all tainted with the same poison. And Emma's like, well, Donna and Gilda are in town. Mujika and Sandra are here. They can try and keep the damage to a minimum. So we're going to split up. Ray and I will remain here to help the town. Norman, you return with everyone to protect the base. Norman's like, all right, let's do it. They start to move Barbara, who is not dying yet. And they're going to move out. They're trying to figure out how the Imperial soldiers learned about the location of the base. Norman starts to say something, but then the Queen gets up. Oh my God, the top half of her head is completely gone, but she's still up. And she bears down on Norman, who doesn't see her because she's behind him. Her mouth opens up, she lunges forward, and the last thing we see is Sislo screaming out, "Boss!" before we get a black panel. Dun, dun, dun. So.
Now, I appreciate that. That was a classic. You think the horror monster is dead, but they get up and strike at you when you least expect it. And that's a trait that's hard to see nowadays. You know, too many times they get up too early. They get you get antsy. You're like, I can wait for them to finish this conversation. I'm just gonna pop up now. You know,
it's time for the sit-up spot.
Yeah, true art, true charactership is never on display like it is here. So she's gonna go places, unless she dies here. I don't know.
Yeah. Good enough chapter. Explaining things, setting things up. This is what we're going to do now. And hey, ended on a very unexpected turn of, yeah, she ain't dead yet. So
yeah, it was a good little twist. I do think a lot of like the logic and reasoning that's been kind of argued around, like it's I don't know how to describe it. It does feel very easy. Like I feel like if there were points that kind of hadn't been reached to this point, or maybe if there was more time being spent emphasizing like, hey, Norman, even if this happens, there are going to be some real consequences for what you've done. But they're not. I mean, maybe this is just isn't the time for it right now. Part of me feels like it's kind of just glossing it over. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Norman just dies here, and that's their way of being like, oh no, but he died a hero in the end, or something like that. This is Darth Vader moment or something like that. But in my mind, I'm like, no, one of those fucking goobers from the fucking other Lambda facility are going to sacrifice themselves.
Zazie is facing the queen, and he's just going to like come in and like chop her into 200 pieces or something like that. Like,
or he'll be the one to get eaten, or something like that. Like something along those lines will happen. But yeah, like I really liked it, but there's always going to be a part of me that's like, yeah, Norman really did kind of go far enough into the genocide route that it is a little hard to fully redeem him.
Yeah, so I mean, like you can spare Papyrus, but I mean, Sans is still gonna shake his finger at you at the end.
I get that reference. I watched somebody talk about Undertale finally.
Took you what, 4 years?
Yeah, something like that. And it only would have done it if people kept mentioning,
constantly talking about it.
People were just like, "Oh, this Dice Funk season, you guys are doing like a pacifist run or something like that." I was like, "Who has time for all these Undertale references and things like that?" And eventually, I had to look it up because it's like Sans is in Smash. Let's see what that's all about.
Good point. Yeah. You couldn't ignore it forever.
Nope. Eventually, I mean, I still didn't play the game.
I haven't played it either.
Real, guys. It's probably not happening. But maybe Chris will. Spookmaster General won't. It's not a scary game. There's a lot of skeletons in it. Still not a scary game though. It's kind of weird. All right, Nick. Let's talk about Black Clover, page 224. You are cursed.
This is your kind of chapter title, isn't it?
Yeah, spooky curse. I wonder which one of the Black Bulls and what hideous, sinister curse they've been afflicted with. Ooh, I can't wait.
Again.
Perhaps Luck has maggots crawling out of his eyes, or something along those lines is the curse.
Probably not.
Referred to in the chapter title. So the chapter opens with Yami saying there's no way that this will work because there's no way to get into the Heart Kingdom. It's a completely closed off area. They have their own unique trap spells located on the border. And if they trap any of them, will be fugitives over there and will probably cause an international incident as well. So just out of the picture, won't be able to work.
Asta just raises his hand. He's like, but we've got their king under blood control magic.
That's the Diamond Kingdom, Asta. That's
right,
the Diamond Kingdom, Asta. And he's just like, I get confused about which ones we mind controlled. I just assumed all of them. I don't know why he's not just like, did we forget I have a magic sword that could just cut through their traps? I don't.
And also, they've got a trap expert on their squad too.
Yeah.
So,
well, they specify a little bit that they're like, oh, well, these traps are really strong. I bet even Rogue's power wouldn't be able to get us past them. So it's kind of their way of being like, I know we have like 7 members of the team who are super broken, but none of them can get around this. So we had to come up with a second option, which is Noelle being like, oh, I thought Mimosa mentioned that she's been to the Heart Kingdom a while ago. That some of the nobles go there as exchange students.
That's right. We're taking her too.
Yes. So basically, Yami's like, cool, Fenrir and you head over there and figure it out. So Fenrir and them head over to, I guess this is the Golden Dawn's headquarters. They basically just head over to Fenrir's place.
Basically.
Which I guess is like, because it's weird. Yami's definitely saying like, hey, get over there. Whatever. It's not important. Anyway, Langris is there with Girl from Backstory. And he shows up and he's like, hey, I heard you're awake. And Langris is very upset because he's like, not only did I almost get everyone killed, I got beaten by a junior member of your brigade. My parents tried to defend me and I almost killed the king. Like, Father must be furious with me right now. And they're like, well, no, I mean, you don't have to worry about that. A bunch of elves just hijacked your body. And he's like, yeah. And on top of that, I had to get saved by the brother who I've always been mocking. And he's really upset. He's like, both you and that peasant you're insufferable. You have no talent. You take on so many burdens. I hate you guys. Like, I don't think it's going to end here. And Finral's like, hey, you know what? Starting now, I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to make Father acknowledge me. I'll become a man worthy of being the head of this house. And I'm going to be the one to make Miss Finez.
Hold
on. It's Ralph Fiennes, right?
I guess.
Ray Fiennes.
Yes.
Ray Fiennes. It's Fiennes because it's spelled exactly the same way. That's the only way I'm going to acknowledge it. So Miss Fiennes.
It's not spelled the exact same way, but whatever.
Hold on. I think it is. I don't know how to spell it, though, so we're going to get Grand Budapest Hotel.
Why are you doing that?
Well, I know he was in that movie.
Okay, so her name.
Oh, no, there's an E in there. There's extra letters, though. So if there's extra letters and it still comes out to Fiennes, this has to be Fiennes.
Okay, so the kanji that spell her name is Finesu, so she's finesse.
Okay, I guess that works, too. So Miss Fiennes is going to be very Spookmaster General doesn't care about your spelling. No, he's like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry if I'm being a little bit selfish here, but I'm going to make myself a man honorable for you and then bring you home. And she's like, well, be quick about it as you can, please. So Langris's like, all right, hey, you know what? I'm going to walk you out. And
come here.
He's like, I'm going to fucking talk with you, my boy. But as they're walking out, two members of the Golden Dawn who I don't think we are supposed to know. They're just both women. That's the only thing that's relevant to this. Are like, oh, hey, I can't believe you're up. And immediately, Finral starts doing his whole act. He's like, oh, hey, cutie girls, you want to get some tea with me? And Langris is like, you're cursed! And this is such a strange scenario where he's like, you're cursed. You're a playboy. You see a woman, you immediately chat her up. You're no good to begin with. You spend all your time trying to make yourself cool. You pick up bad habits. Like, you know, how can you possibly date Miss Finesse when you got this hanging over you? Like, you're cursed, and you have to do your best to level the curse. And it's very, very strange that they call this a curse, and it's a chapter title, when we've clearly been dealing with actual curses. So I don't know if the implication we're supposed to get is that there actually is some kind of like succubus curse over Finral that caused him. If not, it's astonishingly bad planning to like base the entire chapter on this, because it's impossible not to think there's some connection when you're like, everyone's saying he's cursed, like, and we're dealing with curse magic, and only a couple characters are going on this mission to find the curse magic part. Like, it seems really weird to just label everything this way. But yeah, I don't think there is either, but it's very odd. So
I guess that it wouldn't work because Finral says to himself, was breaking my curse one of the reasons behind the investigation? And there's a huge note by it that says no. So
yeah,
I guess it had to specifically be worded that way in order for that joke to work. But I'm pretty sure that Langris is being figurative and not literal.
It definitely seems so, because he's sort of just like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to let you get your happy ending. So it's a way to show that, you know, the relationship between them is getting better, but Langris is still like, hey, I'm your rival now, so I'm not going to give her up, kind of thing. So when you get to the actual like meat of this chapter, which is Noelle and Asta seeing Mimosa being like, yeah, I went there on an exchange trip with my brother when I was 13. And I do like it because we see Alexis, and he's just, Alexis. And he's just, like, sitting there fucking, like, throwing fucking flowers and shit into the air as she's just walking beside him, like, nonplussed about it. She's like, hey, yeah, it was a really beautiful place. My brother was very flamboyant the whole time.
I love that, that she makes no mention of him in this, like, explaining what the place was like, and he's just there.
But she mentioned, like, yeah, so, like, it's really shocking to me, the idea that devils and curses are at the heart of all this. So, I don't really know. I never got to meet the princess who rules the kingdom, but I've heard that she's stronger than our entire Magic Knight Brigade all by herself, you know?
Sure, whatever.
Exactly, like, like, she's an all-knowing mage who sees everything that happens in the kingdom. And Asta gets worried. He's like, uh-oh, is she going to be like the witch from before? But they're basically like, well, all right, we'll just apply to go be applicants and enter the country. So that's what happens. We abruptly are like, boom, we're there. So it's Asta, Noelle, Finral, and fucking Mimosa is coming along on this mission the Black Bulls had to handle together because they're in exile. Oh, and Sakurai as Nero.
Yes.
So,
which is weird because like Finral has a moment where he's like, I promised that I would not hit on girls, and immediately 3 really cute girls are going on this journey. But he words it as like, I'm going with 2 supremely adorable royal babes, which is a descriptor,
yes,
certainly, and another cool beauty who transforms into a bird.
Hey, he's being honest about it, I guess.
Listen, cool beauty is one thing, but a cool beauty who can transform into a bird, oh, that's a catch.
Guys,
that's a catch.
Get yourself a girl who could transform into a bird. That's when you know you're really in love.
Absolutely.
That bitch. All right, you may actually sometimes be careful because you might at the end of it find out like, I've just been dating a parakeet. I thought she turned into a bird at some point. But
I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird when we were flirting and she kept on asking me for crackers.
Man, I really need to apologize to that fancy dinner place I took her and she just flew around squawking and screaming. And I was like, how dare you? She's a person. You can't treat her this way. So yeah, they're in there. We basically get this big shot of them passing through the mist, and then they go on the other side. We see the Heart Kingdom, and as described before, it's this big jungle kingdom that's kind of like nestled in naturally. And they're like, holy crap, all the water sources in the city and the forest are all mixed together. This is crazy. And we close on the image being viewed through a magic waterfall, it seems, as the queen with this weird kind of water visage of a woman behind her saying, ah, yes, the power of the Clover King's the Clover Kingdom's devil.
The Clover King's dong.
Dom's devil that I would love to acquire.
It's a cool shot because, you know, she's seen the throne and there is this bizarre watery visage behind her. It's and I really love the way that the water is flowing around her and stuff. It makes her look very mystical.
Exactly.
I really like this chapter, actually. This, like, month-ish stretch of Black Clover, all this build-up to this journey they're going on, is probably the most that I have liked it since Zora showed up. So, good stuff so far. I really like the character development we're getting, the slow build and stuff. And yes, Mimosa, of course, is getting roped into this thing that just the Black Bulls were going to go on.
Sure.
But it's justified in the story. It's not just like, and we need someone to help us do this. It's like, no, this is something that she has specific personal experience dealing with that no one on our team does. And we need her help to do it this way because we can't just sneak into the kingdom. We actually have to go. And who better to help out in terms of going and having a relationship with other royals, but a noble who is in good standing with their family, as opposed to Noelle, who is a bit of an outsider to all that stuff. So yeah, actually quite liked it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right, so that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. Spookmaster General.
Yes.
What manga are we going to be reading next for Halloween month?
It's a good thing you asked that, Nick, because I was prepared for this. Tokyo Red Hood.
Tokyo Red Hood.
Yes,
right.
Which I hope is just dumb and silly.
It's just going to be like Tokyo Ghoul, except instead of turning into ghouls, they turn into like Red Riding Hoods.
Well,
that also eat each other. I'm
not super thrilled that Lolicon is one of the tags.
Oh
on
no!
That.
Oh no! It's Arrow Girl. Are you fucking kidding me?
It was in there and it was short. But I now notice that the text was in red, which apparently means that it's a bad series. But hey, you know what? We do what we need to. The Spookmaster General with one last spook before the end of the month. Did I say Tokyo Red Hood? I meant Uh, Van Helsing. Well, let's check out Doro Hedro or whatever.
What was your favorite chapter this week?
I liked Dr. Stone. I thought it was super enjoyable and really fun.
I liked Yozakura family. I made no secret of that, of the entire thing. What was your MVP of the week?
Kinro. For that reason, I thought, what a great chapter for him, and I really appreciate how cool he looked.
I'm not actually sure about this. I think I'm going to go with Finral because of the character development he showed, and honestly, the jokes surrounding him were also funny. So there's that too. And it's nice to just show, like, hey, you need to grow up a little bit, and him actually trying to make the effort. It's nice when characters don't remain static, and we actually can see them grow and change over time. And also, his relationship with his brother is changing quite a bit, actually. Yep. That part of it was a little bit too accelerated. Otherwise, it might have actually even considered languorous, but him just being like, yeah, I should try and get along with my brother now after trying to murder him. So, that was a bit sad.
So, I will note that we are going to be adding Act Age and Chainsaw Man to the recap soon. Apparently, this was a really great week for those because Act Age, one chapter of the week, and from the audience, and Riku Ogami, who I'm not sure who that is from the series. It's not the main character, is it? Might be a new character. I don't know who Riku Ogami is, but Riku Ogami won character MVP from the audience.
Okay.
We could easily just find a different one. It could just be a wacky Spookmaster General prank. There's nothing that's short. What is this? Trailer? No, hold on. That's another. I was like, what about this one? Devil Ecstasy. Men die from having their dicks sucked. Oh, it's another one that's in red. There's no short ones.
I don't feel like thanking or expressing gratitude to anyone, so goodbye.
All right, goodbye, everybody. Spookmaster General out.